Okay, so when people read your work on FanRag, they're like, oh, that's Phil. Phil's his boy. They're texting. How much of your thoughts on the Knicks and their issues is embedded with Phil Jackson?
None. None. We do have a long relationship, and he tells me things in confidence. But one of the reasons why he tells me things in confidence is because he knows I will not abuse those confidences. And I've been around the game a long time. I coached, I was his assistant for 3 years in the CBA. I was a head coach for 6 years in the CBA. I coached 50 or so once and future NBA players. I played the game. I have my own ideas. And, a lot of them are congruent with Phil. We have essentially the same basic view of how the game should be played: spacing, discipline, movement, all-out defense, and stuff like that. But we've had our disagreements. We've had our arguments. And in coaching, in those 6 years I spent as a head coach, I had to develop my own way of looking at things. I couldn't be Phil Jackson light because I didn't have his experience, his expertise. So I had to develop my own game plans, and in doing that, it departed to a large degree from how Phil saw the game. So my job with FanRagSports.com is to be an NBA analyst. Right. It's not to be a mouthpiece of Phil's. It's to have my own opinions. I've written 21 books. I've written thousands of columns on various email sites. I have my own expertise, my own way of looking at things, my own credentials. And, that's what I see. And I write what I see. You can agree with it or not agree with it. That's up to you. But to say that, I speak to Phil, and I haven't spoken to Phil in about 6 weeks.
Okay, so that brings us to the obvious follow-up question. So, look, this is, once you posted in FanRagSports.com, it caught on like wildfire, and and Mark Berman of the New York Post even wrote something about it, where you said that Carmelo Anthony's, quote, legs are going, almost gone. As ever, he's still a dangerous scorer, but resists any offensive game plan that limits his one-on-one adventures. You also wrote that while he's been accused of playing defense, Anthony is intent on saving even more steps until the end of the game to conserve his energy for offense. And you added that he's been shooting blanks in the clutch. So it allows people to think you're, again, speaking for what Phil thinks. He hasn't contacted you since and texted you and go, hey, what's the deal, Charlie? Why are you writing these things? People think it's me.
Well, no, not at all. In the past, in the many, many years that I've been writing about sports, 30 years, whatever, I've said negative things about the Knicks when he was at the head of the operation. I said negative things about the Lakers when he was there, about the Bulls. I don't have to ask his permission to be critical of what he does or what he doesn't do. We just don't speak that often.
Oh, okay, so
we don't email that often. We emailed once since I last spoke to him, and it was about acupuncture. Had nothing to do with the Knicks.
Acupuncture is fantastic. I just be careful on how many times you've emailed. Those Russian hackers, they're out there. Charley Rosen joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So, look, what you wrote, though, may have, in addition to losing a 14 of 18, may have kind of stoked this conversation as to if Carmelo would relinquish that no-trade clause. Who for? You pointed out everybody knows two teams, Clippers and Cavs, his relationship with both LeBron and with CP3. What do you think went down with that meeting yesterday?
I have no idea. I just see what I read in the newspapers and on online, stuff like that. I have no idea what went on there. I wasn't there. I haven't spoken to Phil. And I don't expect to speak to Phil. There's nothing to speak about. He knows that he didn't speak to me. Melo, I think, excuse me, I read something where Melo was asked, did you ask Phil if what I wrote was what he was thinking? And Melo said no, he didn't ask that. So that's all I know about it.
Okay, so
but the only thing I do know is that ESPN has written several times in the last couple of days that several members of the Knicks administration want Melo gone.
I'm sure they do. Like at some point, You're like, look, all right. So, what do you think ultimately happens?
I don't know. He says he wants to play with the Knicks, and the guy's going to be 33 years old in May. He's never won a championship. He's never been in the finals. I think he likes living in New York. Maybe now this is just again my opinion.
Doesn't like playing in New York.
Anybody else? I think he likes living in New York more than playing with the Knicks. How can he enjoy a team that's been as bad as they have, especially over the last 11 games? He can't enjoy that. So I don't know where his head is at. It's difficult.
Charlie, how can you make? Here's a question.
I've had a connection with him. when I go down to the garden whatsoever, we talk. We're friendly. Nothing. Two sentences between both of us. I have no animosity toward him as a person, as a human being, but as an ex-coach.
Yeah.
And scout, I watch his game.
I got Charlie. I'm with you. I mean, like anybody, people freaked out when Phil kind of soft pedaled into it and said, he still holds the ball a little bit too much, like a little too much, right? Right. Charley Rosen joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Ghostwriter for Phil Jackson, 2 books, plus has his own column, which you can read at fanragsports.com. This is the Doug Gottlieb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So, none of this is all what everyone in basketball and even fans talk about, but when then people in basketball talk about it, they're like, whoa, Melo now, he's a superstar. Okay, so if he, in fact, wants to try and outlive Phil, right? If his thought in my mind and his guys are like, look, Phil's close to gone. You're close to gone. You got the long-term contract here. Can't fire the players. How can Phil make it so that he wants to accept a trade? What possible way is there to do it when a guy has a no-trade clause?
I don't think it's up to Phil. I think it's up to Melo. I mean, he has complained that every time they lose, it's his fault. And Walt Frazier on the last Knicks telecast against Atlanta, he said that Melo should have kept his mouth shut, that Frazier got blamed when they lost, that Willis Reed got blamed when they lost, and they're two certified champions. Frazier says it's just part of being in New York. You just shut up and play.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it resulted from Melo's overreacting when he was confronted with the story. He still says he hasn't read it.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that. Or he may not have read it, but somebody I'm sure told him.
Right.
Told him about it. What about Phil's future in New York? There's the much publicized breakup, which we saw on Twitter between he and his fiance, who's trying to help run the Lakers. Does that mean that he's in New York for the life of his contract? Like, the sense you get, like, is he in it for the entirety of his deal?
Well, he has said that publicly, that he's in it for the whole thing, and he said that to me. So I don't think it's any secret that he will voluntarily leave. He's a competitor. You have no idea what kind of competitor he is. The reason that he got along so well with Michael Jordan is that the two of them had the biggest competitive fires of any two other players, any two other inhabitants of the NBA at that time. He doesn't show it, cool Zen master and stuff, but he's really
he's a killer.
I sat next to him on the bench. I played against him. I played with him. He's a competitor. And he wants to turn it around. He's not going to quit. I don't think. Who knows? Who knows what's on Dolan's mind? Who knows? And the one thing I've learned about Phil in all the 34 years that we've been buddies is that you can never tell what he's going to do.